Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I understand I will be chairing our meeting this afternoon as our chair, presiding Judge Wells Ashby is not available this afternoon. So welcome to our Local Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting today, Tuesday, November 4th, hosted entirely online. Great to see everyone. I hope all are well. So with introductions, it looks like we have, Angie, I'm going to guess we might have a quorum. We're close.
We need one more after Krista's joining us. We'll need one more.
Okay. And that's, we can still meet. We just don't vote to make decisions or recommendations. We can still get started if we wish to do so here in just a moment. But here we go. We've got, let's see. I see at least one more name has popped in, but I'm kind of trying to follow it, so I'm not sure if we're there.
We're there now with Gil joining us. We have a quorum.
Great. Good. Okay. We have generally we have introductions. It looks like, unless I'm missing something, it looks like we have all familiar faces. I'll look at Devi or Eric or anybody else to say, nope, we're missing. You missed somebody you need to introduce. Thank you, Devi. We got the thumbs up and the confirmation that we are good with introductions. So good news there. Okay. Public comment. Any public that we have online, I see it looks like we have all members and oh good, gosh, we're doing very well now with Chief Krantz joining us as well. Any public comments, and please indicate a raised hand, use your raised hand feature if you wish to provide comments at this time. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our October 2025 meeting minutes, which we have in our packet, and hopefully you've had a chance to review those. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve our Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Chief Krantz.
Second.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, any proposed changes? Edits? I'm not surprised we're seeing none. Angie does a phenomenal job with these. So thank you very much, Angie. Okay, I'll call for the vote. And really, it's just, I guess, if you object, raise your hand. Tell me if you object. Otherwise, we'll follow our chair's protocol of assuming they're approved unless there's an objection. Okay, seeing none, and we have more joining us, so that's terrific. Our district attorney, I see a new RJ Emily has oh good, welcome, great, online as well, terrific. I just want to make sure with a few more people joining, any comments on the minutes or public comments, any other topics before we move to our main topic, which is the community corrections plan. And I'm not seeing any comments from anybody. So let's move into our main agenda item today. And Devi, I am going to turn this over to you to talk about, and I'm right here in my hands, our Deschutes County Community Corrections Plan.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for making some time. I have a short presentation that gives a high-level summary of the community corrections plan draft that you were emailed. And at the end, I will ask for a request for consideration of the chair of LPSC to sign a recommendation letter to the Board of County Commissioners recommending approval of the plan. Of course, we can have all kinds of questions as we go. So I'll just share my screen if that works. I'm already I can't quite see folks. So let's see. All right. Does everybody see that? Or no? Oops, hold on. There you go. How about that? Awesome. Thank you. Just gonna move people here. Okay. So, for those of you, I don't know if I know actually a couple of latecomers. I'm not sure if I've been introduced yet, but my name is Dee Holcomb, and I'm the Director of Deschutes County Community Justice. And I believe Tanner Wark, who is our Deputy Director for Adult Parole and Probation, is on the line as well, or in the call to answer questions or chime in as he feels appropriate during the presentation. So, before we start with the Community Corrections Plan, which is a biennial, so 2-year plan that Community Corrections is required, or a county is required to provide to the state of Oregon, primarily so that we may set up our program expectations for what is called Grant in Aid, which is the primary source of funding for community corrections in the state of Oregon. That's what this is about. So we're into our new 25-27 plan. So a quick reminder that the plan must come under our mission umbrella, which is to protect the public, repair harm, hold and teach accountability, and facilitate pro-social thinking and behavior change. That's a bunch of somewhat jargony terms, but ultimately our goal is that people on supervision find safety, stability, and purpose, and that our employees work and thrive in a supportive workplace. And just as a quick example of this, if you're a Deschutes County employee, you may have seen this already last week in an employee newsletter. This is one of our parole and probation officers, Leah Moore. She works with a caseload of individuals who commit sexual offense crimes. And she's been, as she said, since with the county since she was 21. She looks like she's still 21. So maybe she just started, but she is one of our absolutely amazing POs, and she really embodies that mission statement that I just shared. And I think she embodies what we're trying to do in terms of even supporting staff. And I'll just highlight one thing, that very last sentence: you have to have a good light switch. At home, I'm mom and wife, not a PO. My family didn't sign up for law enforcement, so I leave it at work, which is such a great new way of understanding our work, and we really, really appreciate it. We do need to leave it at home. We need to keep those healthy boundaries, and Leah is one of a really great example of that. So what do we do? There's our mission statement, there's our great employees. What are the actual things we do and that are contained in that plan that you have before you? Our world is felony and misdemeanor supervision of individuals convicted of felonies and certain misdemeanors. We focus on work with those who pose the most risk in our community. That's going to come into play in a minute. And I'll talk about that. We teach accountability through a variety of professional skills, rapport building, consistency, and behavioral techniques. It's not just monitoring and checking and gotcha when you're bad. We do all kinds of upfront proactive work as well. We do this work in many different settings. People come to our office. We have a lot of field visits and home visits. So our folks see people where they are at. We're one of the few arms of the public safety system that are able to do that, and certainly required to do that. In addition to supervision, we do offer services. We'll talk a little bit about this later on with this particular biennium that we are in. But our services exist to reduce the barriers that individuals have to finding success or creating success on supervision. This biennium, we are offering limited housing, treatment, and polygraph subsidies. All those things cost money. They usually cost money to the individual in question. In the past, we've done quite a bit of subsidizing on that to reduce barriers. This next couple years, we have less funding to do that, but we will still be able to do it in a limited way. What we will be doing instead is really leaning on building partnerships with our community-based recovery and reentry services and partnerships, who themselves are under some stress as well with various budget crunches. So it's going to be a really interesting couple of years to see how we all survive this together. A big part of what we do, and perhaps for those law enforcement in our virtual room, this is where you most commonly come into contact with our folks, is in the sanctions realm. When folks do not do what they need to be doing, when they're creating harm or unsafety in the community, we step in with that external accountability. We can look like more reporting or reporting to our office, electronic monitoring, jail, or even revocation, which is a return to prison for a longer period of time. And finally, I'm just adding this in there because we don't ever talk about it. I know you all know this given your positions, but All of this work takes a significant amount of administrative, quality assurance, grant management, and kind of indirect costs that we pay to the county for being very lucky county employees. That all also goes into the plan. So all these areas that I just described are included in that long document I sent you. And all of that for the biennium, we estimate resources of $15.8 million. That's for 2 years. We can talk a little bit about what that looks like. Before we do that, and I won't go into a lot of detail here on this, I will send these slides out. If you have interest in talking about our performance metrics, how we do things, but what is the return on investment that the county and the taxpayers get for this money? We increasingly have tried to think of the answer to this question in 3 ways. One is how much? How much do we do? We don't know if it's good or not. We don't know if it has any effect, but we had to do something to make sure we're working. So how much? And those are really strong, important measurements. Another way we measure is how well are we doing the things that we're supposed to be doing? And that's a different kind of a measurement. Again, we're not quite sure that that results in anything good for the community yet, but if we do it well and we do it the way we're supposed to, we can lean on research that says we're going to have a better likelihood of outcomes. And then the outcomes are that final one. Are we actually better off? What does the community actually get ultimately? So I'll just give you a couple of examples of what these might mean. So how much measure is how many of our POs are actively working on a behavior change approach with the client instead of just monitoring? Again, they could be doing terrible work with that, right? They could just be clicking a box with that. But it's an important thing to do to start measuring of the kind of work we're doing, how much of something we're doing. We have a really high number, 92%, you see there. A how well measure might be how many people successfully complete supervision. And you could argue that this is a better off as well, probably for the person involved, it is going to mean that they're doing better if they're completing successfully. But from the community's point of view, that may not mean much. But for us, we know it's a really good indicator. So 64% of our folks on supervision complete successfully. Complete the conditions, do what they need to do, and move on to something better, at least for a time. And a better off measure, meaning that's really that big overarching, who cares? Why are you doing this work? And this one may be interesting for some of you. The percentage of clients who report that they've actually been taught useful skills. This is a better off for us because we know that lagging skills, particularly social skills, coping skills, regulatory skills are really lacking for this population in many ways. If we can teach actual skills to use in real life situations, we're going to prevent crime, we're going to prevent risky situations, and the community is better off. Those are just some examples, and then I'm not going to go over these in any detail now, just for time, but you will see this presentation, so let me know if you've got any questions about them. But here's some different how wells and different better offs that we utilize internally to see how well we're doing. Okay, stop there. I am saying a lot. Any questions on any of those so far? I can't see too many of you, so maybe just click on your mic if you have a question.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if I can't see you either, please just jump in and ask your questions.
Thanks, Nick. We'll get into a little bit of Community Corrections Funding 101. This is a pretty brief slide. This doesn't change biennium to biennium, so it may be old news, but just as a reminder, Community Corrections is a primarily state-funded enterprise. It's funded primarily through a formula, which very, very roughly is the number of people on supervision, multiplied by the time it takes to provide the required supervision level. Very, very high level, but that's essentially what we do. The legislature will review, but since 2006 has never funded what in the law is a required periodic, quote unquote, actual cost study. So this is an assessment of what quite literally each department doing this work undergoes a period. I don't know, Tanner, if it's a month or less than a month. There's a certain designated period of time where we measure the work we're actually doing. And that is supposed to become the basis on which we receive the funding that we need. But as I mentioned here, the legislature, we have to do it, but the legislature doesn't have to fund it. Regardless of the formula or the actual cost study, in general, I don't think this has shifted in decades, but we have more or less 4% of all the supervised individuals, and therefore 4% of all the state funding. That's generally how it works. We fluctuate a little bit up and a little bit down, but it's roughly 4%. Right now, the county currently splits the funding that we receive from the state, this grant and aid funding, 80%, 20%. 80% is to community corrections and 20% is to local control. And that funding goes to the Deschutes County Jail for individuals who are sentenced to a term of not more than 365 days, i.e. it's a prison term, but can be served locally here in the jail. So that's not all the people in jail. In fact, it's a minority of folks who are in jail at the moment for that reason. But that's where that funding goes.
Dee Dee, can I just ask a quick question? Is that, I should know the answer to this, especially as the county's budget officer, but I just admit that I'm not recalling. Is that similar in other counties across the state, or?
Good question. It's actually varies widely. There are even some community corrections entities that are run under the umbrella of that county's sheriff department. So it really depends on if you're a standalone department, if you're a community justice department like we are. Some are percentage based, some just do, they pay kind of as they go. For actual people sentenced, there's a rate applied to those individuals specifically. And Tanner, do you have any is he on here? I haven't seen
Yeah,
him.
I'm here.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
No, there's about half the counties are under sheriff, about half the other counties are community justice, and then there's 2 counties that are ran by the state. And so all those, how that money's distributed amongst the counties is like Dee Dee said, it's all across the board differently. So.
Tanner. In our county and in many other counties, we do have county funds and a small percentage of funds that support services that are not funded through this formula that I mentioned above. That's either because it's for a misdemeanor that is not considered to be funded, or a whole different population, for example. And, a lot of community corrections entities like ours help out other public safety system partners. One example for us is that we help out the jail really and the courts with administering a contract for electronic monitoring for pretrial individuals. Those aren't quote unquote our population, but we have some administrative structure and office space to help do that. So that's money that like you see come into our budget, but it goes right back out to a specific population, and that's county funded. You can't use state funds for that. And then maybe a really important thing to hear, because it matters moving forward, through very conservative spending over the last several biennium, parole and probation has carried forward, has had a lot of savings that we carry forward into the next biennium in the last 3 biennia. And in a way, this has acted as a shield from some of the problems with this actual cost study that I mentioned that is never funded. And it matters now because we're not gonna be able to do that. That's the teaser, but I mention it here just because it does have some bearing on this plan. So an image of what I just said there is right there on the screen now. That big yellow piece of the pie is this state government payments. But that next big one, the blue one there, for those who, maybe if you have color issues here, this one on the left, that's kind of the second largest chunk. The beginning networking capital, that's that savings account I talked about. So this is for this year, just 1 year for adult parole and probation. And this is the breakdown of the different revenue that's coming in. So 72% is new state money. 18% is state money that we have carried forward over the past few years. And the 7% here you see is transfers in, that's the county general fund. So a little tiny slice right there. So as you can see, what happens at the state is very much a local story for us with community corrections. Okay. So where are we at with budget this biennium? We actually came into fiscal year 2026 cautiously optimistic. We had eliminated FTE, so we made some cuts coming into the year. because we had been curious of what was going to be happening in the budget. So we didn't cut all the FTE that we've been holding open and just kind of freezing, but we cut a significant amount. So we were coming in with a slightly lower budget. And all throughout the legislative session, there was a lot of support for this actual cost study. It was very bipartisan. It was all over the place. So we came in and budgeted with the county with an assumption that some of that actual cost study would be funded. At the end, I don't know if it's all a blur still, but if you all kind of remember at the end of the session, things just really devolved pretty quickly. I believe that's around the time that a lot of concerns about Medicaid funding from the federal government began to hit. And the legislative leaders determined a big no on the actual cost study. So we did have a cost study, a new one, that said we need about $18.18 a day per person on supervision. But we were allocated, so the official legislative allocation was only $15.09 a day. And that was their current service level. So it was actually a little bit more than the prior biennium, like a little bit of a cost of living. It just did not match certainly 2 years worth of Deschutes County increases. So it was actually pretty rough. It's been very rough. It's been one nonstop conversation that many of you on this call have been having with us since July. Essentially a $3 million deficit in the parole and probation budget to figure out over this biennium immediately. And the numbers just kind of line out here. The budget we came into that we got approved for would have been, the estimated 2-year version of that was 18 million. So that's our quote unquote actual cost. What we were actually allocated was 13.5. This is for parole and probation specifically. We add to that big carry forward that I mentioned before, and that resulted in this $2.8 million deficit. So what then? We have been very, very active. I want to just thank here publicly. If you see a parole and probation staff employee member out in the world, please say thank you. They have been enduring with us a lot of uncertainty about how to figure this out, and really, really quickly. Essentially, I want you to know that we've kind of done a fundamental reset. We this year and going into next will deplete any of that extra carry forward savings that we had been holding. We will just come in with the bare minimum that county budget laws require us to have. Between July and between December, this month or next month, we will eliminate 9.25 positions. So recall, we came in already having eliminated that 3.75, add to that 9.25. That's about an 18% cut in staffing, which those of you in, I think most of you are in the public sector, if not even in any employment sector, that's a huge chunk. It's a fundamental reset for us. One thing we're doing is really integrating better our juvenile and our parole and probation administrative efforts. We are the community justice department, so what's happening on one side is having an effect on the other. We had to make a 75% cut in those funds that we used to provide to individual clients to remove barriers. So that's that stabilization and service. So you know, that's primarily in the housing realm. We used to provide a month or 2 months of rent subsidy for folks coming out of prison or in various, stages of their supervision needing it, but it's going to be severely reduced. Obviously, we're going to be a smaller, more agile workforce. It's interesting, we probably will have less specialization, just as things shrink, people need to be able to do a lot of different things, and we'll be moving to that. As I mentioned before, asking staff to stay positive during this has been a real challenge, and I think we're doing okay, they're doing amazing, but it is just hard. It's kind of a hard time, and I think all of you are probably facing some version of that. So that's what's going on. We are making a lot of investments in time and relationships to find additional funding, not just rely on those sources of funding. That said, the amount of deficit we're in is just way too big, and it looks like at least something we're in for the next 4 to maybe 6 years, that additional funding isn't really our way out of it, but it can help preserve some basic things, and it can also help for some of those innovative things we don't want to totally get rid of. I was talking with a community-based provider yesterday who actually said they were excited. I said how things are going, and they said, "Oh, we're actually pretty excited. This is a really great time." And I just was like really puzzled about what they meant by it being a great time. And they just said, you know, out of the chaos comes something new, and out of the chaos comes opportunity. And I have tried to hold on to that as well, and I think that's true. But right now we're right in the middle of it. So just know that we are proceeding forward. Our plan, I think, has stabilized our budget. It is smaller, it is different. And for you all, especially in public safety, I'll just highlight two things you might see or we might start seeing in our world. And that is, unless, you know, we have some specific grant funds, our work is really going to shift from providing subsidies to clients. And these are clients who have a lot of barriers to receiving subsidies in other areas just because of their criminal backgrounds. We need to help them find those resources elsewhere, or to find resilience or individual personal resources. And then we are moving to a slightly more reactive than a proactive supervision level approach for individuals who come into our supervision with initially low risk to recidivate scores. And that's regardless of their crime type. It doesn't mean passive. It doesn't mean there's a whole segment of offenders who are not being seen, that we don't care about and that we can't do anything about. I do not want to send that message. But there is a fundamental shift in how active and how often we can see everybody. And I do believe some percentage of those folks, a risk to recidivate is not 100% guarantee. So I think some of those folks are probably going to slip through the cracks and have potentially more violations, or maybe even more reoffenses. We're going to do our best to track, watch, adjust where we can, but that is happening. Tanner, you want to say anything more about that?
No, I think you covered it. It just a reset is a good terminology from what we have been doing in a more service and supervision model of case management to more reactionary.
Yeah. And how about anything, I mean, how would you typify, or how would you describe staff response to this change in particular?
Well, they have good attitude about it, but we're in the midst of it. So full impact has not been received. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks as we filter out the new layout for case management and so forth. And
Yep.
supervision.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, to a person, the parole and probation officers feel a high degree of responsibility for public safety. They feel the liability when somebody reoffends, and anything that's going to come in and I think feel like they're not able to do that as well. We need to come around and support people, give them the tools that they can to adjust, to monitor, so that we can prevent that from happening. Right. That said, that's what we know now. Things are absolutely always in flux. And as my friend in the community said, I mean, out of the chaos comes new opportunities. So things do change. They can change relatively quickly. Things that we will be adjusting or responding to would be fluctuations in our population. Laws change, and entire new groups of people are under supervision, or now no longer under supervision for certain kinds of crimes. You guys know that really well. We could have something occur where we're more than 4% of the budget, right? We get a lot more money, or we're suddenly less than 4%. We get a lot less. So we just kind of move along with those fluctuations. There are going to be some upcoming changes to the state's initial recidivism risk tool. It's called a PSC. I don't think many folks in the public safety system other than us follow what that acronym means. It's called the Public Safety Checklist. But as that changes, that will change our practices, because you need, as I mentioned earlier, we focus our resources on those with the highest risk to recidivate. So if that changes and the cutoff scores change and we have suddenly more people that we have to, that can change. Or conversely, if it's less people who have that higher risk, maybe there's less. So we just kind of move with that too. State agencies have currently been asked to provide 2% and 5% cut strategies to what we've already been allocated, so there could be some reductions there. And our pledge is certainly we will come to you if there's any substantial changes in our plan. We would need to do that, and we would want to do that. So let's hope that doesn't happen, but we would do that. All right. What questions, comments? Don't have to have any.
Well, I have one, Davy.
Yes, Joseph.
I truly appreciate when you started presenting, just to highlight one of the staff there. That really means a lot for some of us who've worked that job to see that actually you can honor that and just recognize somebody who does that job, because many of us, we haven't been on the ground to see what these POs and what they deal with. So I thought that was really great.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, and then I looked at what there's a chart that came that you shared about 72% of the state funds. But there's also another comment that you made that you said since 2006, the state has not funded some money. And do you know why is that? Is that the expectation? I mean, I know you may not have answers, but that's kind of from 2006 until now, they're not helping us. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely been a challenge. The law does not require them to fund it. And I think it usually seems to happen that it's to some extent discretionary. And so it gets thrown into the mix at the end of each legislative session with all the other competing needs and priorities. And also every single county is quite different. Each county, there isn't a statewide rate for what it costs to pay a parole and probation officer. So we pay a certain rate, and Benton County a different rate, and Multnomah County a different rate. And so each county kind of rides along with what it can get. And it would be very difficult to create a statewide, standard just due to the cost of living. So I think that comes into play. It's otherwise it's a discretionary item. And sometimes I guess since 2006, it has not made that top priority list. I don't know if Commissioner Chang or Tanner, you guys have been involved in that. Any insights as to why the legislature has declined?
None for me. I mean, they've done a lot of work in the last two cost studies, and I mean, they were time study and cost study. So two things go forward to the legislative body, and the last two, because it's done every 6 years, they've just shot it down. So
Yeah,
it's been a bit of a disappointment and a thorn in the side of all the counties.
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I would say that the governor and the legislature are working pretty closely together, and the governor's priorities have been housing, behavioral health, homelessness. And, we've seen stuff like transportation and, other
Yeah.
critical public priorities fall by the wayside. So, it's not good. But I think, my impression is getting the governor to make your thing one of her top 3 priorities is the way to see funding increases.
Yep, thank you. DA Gunnels.
Hey, Davey, are there things that partner agencies can do to help kind of mitigate the stress on your department, such as for us, we often have a choice between a prison sentence or a supervised probation sentence? Should we be leaning more towards prison and less towards supervision? I know, but it does seem like if you don't have the resources to adequately supervise the large volume of people, it probably makes more sense to be sending some of them to prison.
Yeah, I think you're not the first DA or first person in community correction sector to make that conclusion as well. If the community supervision is not funded adequately, and the liability of risk is transferred, unfairly into the county, I think some counties do end up whether individually or as a matter of policy to make that same decision. I know some counties have been quite formal about that, even to the extent of refusing JRP funding, which is specifically for those downward departures, right, in lieu of prison. I think at this point, I think, you know, give us a chance. We're gonna be data driven. We're gonna do what we can. We're gonna watch really carefully what we're doing, and we're gonna focus on those who do pose the most risk. And I think we can still do that. I mean, we've come up with the plan that I think we're still in the green zone with that. We're certainly moving into the yellow, but I think we're in the green. Tanner, you, yes, no, maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
Thanks. Let's see. I thought Chief Krantz.
I did, thank you for that. I struggle with it, right? Unlike what DA Gunnels just pointed out is for years, the push has been defund prison system or, you know, reduce funding, and push for community supervision, community treatment, community-based everything, and push funds that way. And then to reduce that as well just seems a bit of a unfortunate slap in the face to the communities who then have to put up with this. So it's a really unfortunate situation that this is where our budgets have gone to, I guess, and understanding where other parties take over it. But it's a very legitimate question is at some level, we as the public safety professionals have to determine what is the safest space for this person to be in if there's not adequate community supervision, and prison is that pipeline. That is the safest space if they can't be adequately supervised in the community. So I worry about what the future will look like. And all the progress that's been made by organizations like yours, DV, who have very committed folks out there doing the supervision to then have that impact. It's just, it's kind of a, it sucks. Sorry, lack of a better word. It just kind of sucks. Because that's where we're at. It's troubling. So thanks for that presentation, and we'll see where we go. But I know everyone's committed to community safety in the bigger picture, right? And for making people whole people and getting them contributing to society. So
Yeah.
struggle.
It is a struggle. I appreciate that sympathy. And if I may, hopefully we can pass that on to our staff that y'all feel their pain too.
Yeah.
Commissioner Chang.
Yeah, thanks. I want to echo that sucks. But the specific question I have is kind of it's technical, it's fiscal technical. So you explained to us the formula, right? You explained to us the rate. I don't know, and maybe other people already know this, but I don't know, kind of the frequency of fund transfers from the state to PMP or to community justice. Like, is it monthly? Based on how many people you're supervising this month, next month, or is it like once a year, or is it what quarterly, what kind of frequency do you actually get paid? And I mean, if it was long time increments, then is it possible, like if it was, once a year, then is it possible that your numbers change dramatically during the period that those funds are supposed to cover?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. The allocation is determined at the beginning of the biennium based on a look back. They actually, I think, take a 3-month snapshot of your population, several months prior to that. And then that becomes your percentage of whatever money becomes available. So they determine your percentage upfront at the time that the legislature passes the total budget. And then you get quarterly payments based on that. And it won't change for the biennium unless, like I mentioned, the state agencies have been given a 2% and a 5% cut scenario. If they get that, they will then pass that on to us. And they will usually do that in the form of reducing or eliminating like that final quarterly payment. And that has happened before, and that happened with us, but we were fine. I think we could cover what was lost, but that's how that works. So it's relatively stable once the allocation comes in and is finalized, which is probably, and I'll thank you for, that's like a slightly silver lining of what is often a very gray cloud for us, but it is pretty stable pending budgetary issues.
But I mean, if they set that at the beginning of the biennium and then your numbers surge, you're still only getting quarterly payments for a lower level of supervisees.
Yes. In that biennium. It'll
Yeah.
be, you'll catch up the next biennium.
Yeah, okay,
But yeah, it does a lot of a roller coaster
right,
yo-yo, which is not great.
right.
Okay.
Dee, I'll just jump in to say, beginning with the budgeting piece, what you, Tanner, Trevor, what your team has done over the last several years has been very helpful in transitioning to the point we're at now. With your balances, with your very conservative budgeting, providing time and as you said, opportunities to transition and think about where we go from here, where we got to where we're at now, where we go, because as we both heard from our colleagues around the state, Lane and Washington counties and others, it's been a very, very dramatic change and sudden of layoffs and more. And you have just your leadership and that of your team and has really positioned us as well as we could possibly be given the circumstances that we're in. And you really deserve a lot of credit for that.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. I'm gonna pass it on to the team too. I appreciate that.
Also, I mean, I appreciate the optimistic look of, out of chaos come new opportunities. I also like the one of, don't let a good crisis go to waste. And you are certainly looking for those silver linings, those opportunities, and how can we best serve our community given the circumstances we're in. I'll also share, and we've both been in conversations many times with our lobbyist, Doug Riggs, as he meets with legislators saying, look, we're going to pay. It's just if we're either going to invest in the community corrections program, or as Chief Vance was talking about, or our district attorney, or we're going to pay in other ways. And whether it's the state or local governments, we're going to pay. And why not make investments into the people and programs and systems and operations up front rather than maybe some of the lesser choices we would like to see funded. Just because the negative outcomes that will result without the supports that you and your team are providing through the supervision.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from everybody? Very good discussion. And Dee Dee, I'll certainly leave it in your hands here as we conclude and wrap up, and we look forward to a motion to approve the plan when members are ready to do so. But I'll leave it in your hands here, Dee Dee.
Yeah, no, I think we're there. My request is that somebody makes a motion for Lipstick to authorize chair signature, and I can stick this in the chat too. Authorize chair signature on a letter recommending Board of County Commissioner approval of the 2025-2027 Community Corrections Plan.
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. Angie, did you get what you need? And maybe there is no chat on this. Is it me? Is there a
That's
chat?
okay. I heard a motion from our district attorney. Do we have a second? I may have missed that.
I'll second.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you, Chief. Let me just conclude. Okay, any other comments about the motion, about the plan? Seeing none, all those in favor, I guess either say aye or just raise your hand or do something to signify your support for approval.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? I'm seeing none. The recommendation is to approve the plan unanimously. Dee Dee, thank you very much. I would ask if you would please send the presentation to all members. I thought it was really informative. Certainly, we've been in these conversations, but you really synthesized and summarized everything extremely well into just a few slides. So I think it would be helpful if you're able to
Yes,
with everybody.
I will. I'll send it to Angie.
Great,
And then
Thank
I'll
you
get that
much.
letter to Judge Ashby.
great, okay.
Okay.
And thank you, Tanner, as well. Thanks for your comments. We really, really appreciate it. Here, okay, let's conclude with our last agenda item number 6, agency announcements or any other comments by anyone. Going once, going twice.
At the risk of
Okay,
taking
go
the
ahead.
meeting over, sorry. I
Please,
just,
go ahead.
it's on the agenda, but I just wanted to make a
Oh, yes.
special invitation for everybody to, on this team, to attend our December meeting. It will be in person. And it will be in person because we are going to be diving into something that some of this group has been participating in with us on the other side of community justice, which is our juvenile detention assessment process. That group has a recommendation ready for you all to look at and discuss, which will then go to the Board of County Commissioners and ultimately the Budget Committee, making very, very important decisions about what kind of detention and 24/7 services we have for juveniles in the county. So that's next month, the December meeting. It'll be in person downtown at the first floor, the large conference room at the end of the hallway when you first come in the County Services Building to the right. So more to come, but please make effort to either come or send a designee if you can.
Agree. Thank you very much. I do see that on the agenda. So everybody has that as well. So, okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We'll adjourn the meeting.
Nick, if I could,
Oh, please.
I just wanted to, so a number of you heard at the last LIPSIC meeting, an inquiry I made about bringing a request for crisis services support to Coles. And I just wanted to thank Chief Grants, Chief Lewis for welcoming that request to be heard at Coles. And unfortunately, I'm going to be in an Oregon Transportation Commission meeting when that happens. But the very capable Holly Harris will be presenting that in a couple weeks. And thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Any final comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll adjourn the meeting at 4:17. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice afternoon and evening. Bye.